Okay, we are live on Odysee and VK. Not sure what's happening with, or sorry, we're not on Odysee. We're on Rumble and VK. Odysee shit the bed for like the fourth time this month. Don't know what's going on there. Don't have time to fiddle fuck around with it. So if you want to watch this on Rumble, you can Shekelchat on Rumble. You can Shekelchat on Entropy. I will put the Rumble link on Entropy. We're going to be talking about education. I think my brother's going to come on too. We've both taught school at different times. We have a little insider view on this. Okay, he's got earbuds now. The Wi-Fi on the Outer Banks is so bad in the summer that he might end up at robot voice, but we're going to try. So let me see if I can bring him in. And I'm also going to talk about education in Japan, including this left-wing propaganda about Shinzo Abe saying, oh, Japan doesn't admit what they did to China and Korea in their school textbooks. Bullshit. That's all based on this one guy, Tado Aso, who's like Japan's John Bolton, and he's way out there, and nobody listens to him. I've seen the textbooks in middle schools and high schools, several different ones, different prefectures. All of them talk about the comfort women, if you know what I'm saying. They talk about the rape. They talk about the mass murder, medical experiments, and all that stuff. They freely admit everything horrible that they did to the Koreans and the Chinese. It is not censored. But that is a repeat thing for leftists to say. And I hate defending Shinzo Abe. This is like when I'm defending Donald Trump. It's like, no, there are plenty of real bad things you could point to. You don't have to invent stuff. But they do have to invent stuff because they're usually guilty of all the same crimes that they would be criticizing the right of. The left also does. So, one is the textbook myth, okay? Stop saying that. Stop repeating it. All right? Other than Tato, one idiot, one John Bolton type of guy, every single prefecture in Japan, in every single high school, both in their history book and in their English book, because the English book only talks about political things for some reason, they talk about what they did in World War II and what they did in the invasion and annexation of Korea. They do. I'll go get the books and photograph them if you want. But you got all these people who don't live in Japan, don't speak Japanese, and don't know what the fuck they're talking about, all repeating each other. And it's so easy to debunk. You go to any high school, let me see your history book. Boom, boom, bing, there it is. If you want to debunk it, prove me wrong. Show me one that doesn't have it, because they all have it. I'm going to put that at 99%. Every single one I've ever looked at any school I've ever been to. And I have access to all the schools. I'm the Goodwill ambassador for NADA. And I know plenty of people in Osaka. I've taught every level from, kind of like college course, not a full-time teacher, but I've taught the college level, and I've taught high school, and I've taught middle school, and I've taught elementary school. I even taught special ed. Didn't see it in there. Other than special ed, it's in everything. Well, not elementary school, but from about they stagger it differently. So they would have 8th, 9th, 10th grade. That's their middle school. It's in there. So quit lying. I'm going to show you a quick video on Abe, but first I will see if my brother is available. See how the Wi-Fi is doing over there on the Outer Banks. Well, let's try this way, actually. Nope, shut up. God, I hate the fucking tech. He ain't gonna hear that. Let's see if we can do this. Here you are.
Can you hear me?
You're on StreamYards. Say something. I hear you.
Yabba dabba dizzle.
You don't need Skype. You do not need Skype. Just talk to your microphone. Hello?
All right.
Okay. This is just the worst. You get people that know a lot about education, know a lot about history, and the goddamn Wi-Fi doesn't work because they live on a island or a peninsula where the population is like 6 times higher in the summer than it is in the winter, and they don't have the infrastructure to just sustain cell phone networks. And I remember when phones first came out, that would happen places like New York City and stuff. None of them would work because so many people would try to get on at once. But we'll try. See if you can say like 3 sentences in a row without going robotic. Go for it.
Epstein didn't kill himself. Richard Pearl's a twat.
He said Epstein didn't kill himself. Richard Pearl's a twat, but it did. It cut you off twice. You went Epstein didn't kill Paul's. Man, this sucks. I would love a workaround. You know what I've also noticed? Like, the smarter the guest is, the worse the tech is. You're horrible at tech. Scott Ritter's horrible at tech. Like, boomer gonna boom. But in this case, everything's being done correctly. It's just where you live is out in the sticks, and the hillbillies there still use the paper system.
Yeah.
We had a great conversation about education. I wish we could share it with people, but it might be painstaking. I might have to reiterate what you're saying, which sucks. I don't want to talk the whole time, but let me show a video real quick. I got it. It's about 6-7 minutes because I went to Nara. I love Nara. That's why I became a Goodwill ambassador. I cleaned Todaiji with my hands. I'm really nerd out on this prefecture, and I went to where Abe was killed. You can call it Japan's Daily Plaza. It's called Yamato Saidaiji. It is right in the middle of Japan, right where the elbow is, pretty much. And it's right in the middle of northern Nara. Nara is both a prefecture and a city. It's like New York, New York, right? There's New York City inside of New York State. There's Nara City inside of Nara Prefecture. Yamato Saidaiji is like like 2 main train stops away from that. Pretty close. I mean, you're just minutes away. It's right next to Gakuen Mai, and then you have Saidaiji, and then it's in between Ikoma, which is like the mountain that borders Osaka, and Nara City, which is the like northernmost part of Nara, almost the northernmost part. It is not that close to Kyoto. They keep saying that on the news. It's like 45 minutes away from Kyoto, but the 2 prefectures are adjacent to each other. It's just where Abe was taken out is not that close. But anyway, it is not even a 20-second walk from the train station. The killer was actually just past the parking lot for the buses. And I could show you this. I'll play this clip, and as that's playing, I'm going to mess with my brother's audio and see what I can do. So let me share this with you. I went to the killer's house. I went to where he bought supplies for his homemade gun, and I went to Yamato Saidaiji. And I was in a position to do that because I lived in Nara for 10 years, and I still live close enough to where I could do this. So here you go. It should be playing in a few seconds. Oh, it looks like that file doesn't have a video track. Well, hooray. Hooray for tech issues. Varg's asleep, so we're not going to do that. Okay. Well, I will try to fuck with that later. That really sucks. I traveled all over the place, all over the prefecture. I spent the whole day doing that stuff, and the goddamn video doesn't work. And I could fix it, but I'm not a girl. I don't multitask. I do one thing at a time and get it done instead of half-assing a bunch of stuff. So screw it. I guess we're doing that tomorrow. It's been 2 days in a row. I used to be up all night at the same time zones as my nerds, and we could fix this stuff. But because I'm getting a bitch here, because I got coronavirus when I was in Texas, and they wouldn't let me home for an extra 6 days. Then the IRS goes after me, and then my bank cut off all my cards, and I'm up at night because that's daytime for them every fucking day trying to get my cards turned on with these fucking NPCs and all these robot people and stuff, so I get money to pay my rent and all. They made my visa late because that was due on the 14th. I was supposed to get back on the 6th. I didn't get back until the 13th at 5 a.m. That was to Tokyo. I get in, I have to get an extension on my visa, which means I also don't have a health card because I'm illegal now. And I can't travel anywhere. Same reason. They still haven't sent it back to me. I've got chronic back pain, torn rotator cuff, can't get any pills, can't get any help because I don't have a Gaijin card for the universal healthcare system because my visa is late, because I couldn't send in my visa documents, because I couldn't get home because of the Rona. So all that shit happened. Anyway, talking about education, Scott, you have taught almost every level, right? I don't know if you've ever done elementary. Have you ever done elementary?
No.
Okay, but you did. I know you did junior high for a while.
I did junior high. I did high school.
High school
and I
too.
did college.
And college, yeah. So I did all those. I didn't teach full-time college. I just did like lecture and answer type of thing. But I've taught all the rest of them over here, and I subbed over there. Do you think there's really a decline in education, like compared to when we went to school? Because you would assume with all the technological advances and stuff that, I don't know, people would at least self-educate. It's so easy to just go on and watch Curiosity Stream or Brilliant or even YouTube and learn whatever you want to learn, if that's what you use it for. But I guess it's also equally as easy to just sit there and watch music videos and, I don't know, whatever, entertainment stuff as well. But I know that you've been doing live talks about the colony, about pirates, about, different historical events. You've gone to the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and you do Civil War talks and lectures on all manner of things. Over a long period of time, do you see a decline based on age?
Absolutely. It is true that there's more technology in schools now, but it really just makes it easier to cheat. And the kids are not using the technology to learn anything. They're just watching TikTok and texting each other. It's not maybe 1% of 1% is using it to further themselves in education.
I hadn't thought of that. It just makes it easier to cheat, so people can just plagiarize things and use that for their assignments.
Oh yeah,
and I would imagine there's a gap too, because a lot of the teachers aren't ahead of the curve and don't realize they just cut and pasted this from here and here, and they don't know how to police it.
That's worse than that. Is a lot of the new teachers that are up to date are getting most of their worksheets and stuff from online, and so the teaching's going down. It's not just the students, but the teachers are getting most of their time online. Kids can figure out where they got it from.
It's really frustrating. Hold on, your audio is shit. So I think he said something like the teachers are getting their lessons plans online. The kids figure out where they're getting the lesson plan from so they can go and grab all the answers. Was that fair? I'm trying to guess. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's something.
Technology is making education worse on both ends. It's making teaching worse. Yeah.
Well, I had this Chinese guy telling me, he was talking to, I overheard it. He wasn't talking to me, but I think he was talking to his son. And he said, because the kid was on Zoom wearing a mask, and he said, back in my day, I had to go through 3 dimensions to get to school on one leg, and my other leg was starting a business. Well, yeah, I thought it was funny. We had to go through 3 dimensions to get to school. Zoom class, that COVID, people lost like 2 years of education. First of all, you can't do PE at all like that. So they had zero physical education. A lot of sports got canceled, especially group activity sports. So that was out. And then when it comes to, I guess, academic things, they just could sit there, put their face on there and be playing video games on their phone or whatever as they're just sort of nodding and they're wearing a mask and the teacher doesn't know. They can't watch like 30 different faces at once. I feel like there's a decline. So you were giving me an example before the show. You were saying you asked a group of people, maybe 30, 40 people, okay, name a pirate, just to see what the first pirate they would name would be. And what did people usually say if you asked that question?
Blackbeard, obviously, which is what I thought they would say. And I was assuming that would happen so that I could make the point that he is the most famous pirate ever. And then explain why and go into it. But they sat there silent. Then somebody said Captain Hook, which is from Peter Pan. And then somebody said Jack Sparrow. And I thought, maybe they're trying to be funny. And so I said, what about Blackbeard? And they, honestly, God, had never heard of Blackbeard, which was shocking to me.
Blackbeard's actually in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He's on the last one or whatever. I don't know if they call him Blackbeard, but it's like really obvious that this is who the character is based on. I never watched it, but I heard about it. I watched the first ones, but that is just sad. They know Jack Sparrow and Captain Hook, and they don't know Blackbeard, and they live on the Outer Banks.
No, they were tourists, but
oh, okay. All right. Well,
if you don't have never, I understand if you don't know anything about Blackbeard, right? Or you don't know anything about Billy the Kid, let's say. But everybody's heard those names, You say name a outlaw, Billy the Kid, okay. Even if you don't know where he was born or what he did, you've heard the name. Name a pirate, Blackbeard.
I don't know, man. I think they don't know Billy the Kid. There was a generation that learned about Billy the Kid because of the movie Young Guns. There was a movie, and that's the only reason they've heard of him. Jesse James, all that. I'm learning how little U.S. history people either retained or were not taught at all. Like they heard of it, but 2 weeks later they forgot it or whatever. I don't know. The way they teach history in schools is the most boring way you could possibly do it. That should be a really fun subject, very entertaining. It's everything that's ever happened. I mean, it should be something to look forward to. Oh, but it isn't. I need some feedback from the crowd, by the way, because this is not playing on Odysee for some fucking reason. Can you see this on Entropy? Can you see this on VK and Rumble? I know there'll be like a minute lag time, but there's no point in doing this if you can't see it. Yeah, someone just said they teach history only to pass the next exam. Yeah. And he really, like, I don't even think it needs to be graded so much. Take that pressure off. Okay, we'll have this. This is what you need to know, but
it's all tied to funding. So
it's all tied to funding.
When I was teaching in middle school, for example, I was at a very poverty-stricken school, and so they didn't have a lot of money to begin with because property tax is where the money comes from for schools. So schools that are in bad areas don't have any money, and they're not getting any money at all from Booster Club or any of that at all. So the way that they would get money is you had to show growth, even if the kids were still scoring low.
Wait, say that again. So, excuse me, sorry, because the audio sucks ass.
Oh,
I'm gonna say what you just said again. First of all, the way it's structured, and this is not just North Carolina, this is anywhere. The public school is by zip code, and the property taxes of the people around the school pay for it. That's what goes to pay for the school. So if you have an impoverished area, you're going to have an impoverished school, excluding certain grants and this and that. And so if you have an area full of poor people, it will not have a lot of taxes from property, and so the school will not have a lot of money. And then you said the way you do get money, though, is to what? Show test scores?
Growth. So
show growth?
You get, right. And even if your scores are bad, as long as they're better than before, and you're moving in the right direction, then you get a little money for the school. And if you don't show growth, you're basically going to get fired. And your kids are broken into 3 categories. You're really low performing, medium, and high. And usually it's really hard to grow the high kids because they're already scoring 90 or whatever. They can only go up so much.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the high kids went up the most. Most of my kids that were high went up 10 points. And that's because there were not as many discipline problems with the AIG kids, so they could learn more. My medium kids,
they went up 10 points?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had the most growth in the district, and I got teacher of the year and all this crap, whatever. I was
teacher of the year, the most growth in the district, did best with the smart kids, or not even smart, but like best performing.
Right. But I did terrible with the low performing kids. And that's who needs to grow the most. But I didn't. All of my kids grew. So nobody went down. Everybody went up every year. But they didn't go up as much. And that's because they didn't behave. And I was a softie. And, you basically had to be a drill sergeant with certain classes to get anything done because the kids were so horrible. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, what are they doing?
I had a kid get stabbed in the head in my class, and this was a thug school. Like, there was a woman that came to school, grown woman, and started beating up a 7th grader for bullying her child. Now, she came to school with a baby, not a baby, but like a 1-year-old on her hip, and is slapping this other girl in the head and grabbing her. And I ran up and took the child and handed the child to some like 8th graders that were somewhat trustworthy as to hold this child, and broke up the fight. That was how my day started. Like, it was that kind of school. So you had certain classes where they're animals, man. I mean, they just didn't care at all.
Can I contrast that to Japan real fast? So I cannot imagine in say a Japanese middle school a mother coming to school with a baby to hit a student. That would be national news. Like, I can't even there's no way that would happen.
Well, the funny thing is, this other girl who was like the best fighter in the school, she's a new kid that moved in from Arizona, some full-blood Apache chick. Her and her brother were not to be messed with. And she came over and knocked a woman flat on her ass. Like, you're a teacher and you're breaking up a fight, you have to just get scratched and hit and just kind of stand in between them, and you can't take them down. You're not allowed to do anything. And so I'm trying to get them apart, and because this woman is beating up a 12-year-old, and then this 13-year-old comes over who's the size of a grown woman and just hits the chick in the face and knocks her down. I was like kind of glad because it ended the fight, and I told her, and she liked me because I was the wrestling coach of her brother. I was like, hey, go sit over there. Like, this is enough. You got your one. She's like, okay, I'll do that for you. And that's how the day began. And I remember going the first period and then getting called down by the principal because I was the only teacher that witnessed this happen. It was out in front of the school because all the kids were waiting to go in just before the school even opened. So you got all the kids that are kind of dropped off early, hanging out front. It's normal. And then they had another fight in the gym the same day. So that's why none of the resource officers came out there, because they were dealing with some other fight in the gym at the same time.
You have resource officers?
Oh, yeah.
What is this?
Yeah. It's like a security guard for a school.
And do the kids clean the school themselves?
No. They're not
Because
even
ours
allowed.
clean the whole school.
This is how bad the school was. When you went to lunch, they had to get single file and be 10 feet apart. And they weren't allowed to talk. And they had to walk up against the wall and like march to lunch. And at the end of the day, when it was time to dismiss them, you had to let them go like one at a time, out to the bus and then follow them. And all because
was this in Elizabeth City?
Yeah.
So that's where Edward Snowden's from.
Right.
How did he come out of there?
I don't know. Well, actually, about 20% of the school was like wonderful kids, that really, whatever, would succeed anywhere that you put them. And then probably 70% of the school is not that bad. It's just that bottom rung, man. That bottom group, those outliers, were so freaking bad that all these stupid rules that were in place were because of the same ones that were causing all the problems. And that's how it is everywhere. You talk to teachers from all over, and it's like, yeah, if I could just get rid of these like 6 kids, but there's nowhere for them to go. So, we had a guy push up.
What would be a solution?
Woman.
What would be a solution for that?
Alternative school. And anyone who tries to push up a woman down the stairs goes to alternative school. They've been in.
They tried to push a pregnant woman down the steps. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that happened. Yes.
Shouldn't you go to prison for that?
Yeah. There was a kid that I took his phone away, and he said
there was a gang in Philly that beat a 73-year-old man to death outside. 4 girls and 4 boys that ranged 10 to 14 years old. They just found a guy outside and beat him to death, throwing road cones at him and stuff.
Yeah. It's awful, man. There's just no home training at all. That's the problem, is the parents. Because 100% of the time when you're having problems with a kid like that, and you meet, well, I shouldn't say parents with an S, because that's never the case.
A single mom or grandmom.
Right. Or both. And they're usually worse than the kid. So, what? There's nothing the school can do about that.
Wait, the mother's worse than the kids?
Always. So,
So keep abortion legal?
Jesus. It still is in our state, but there's really nothing the school can do when you have kids like that, because all the leverage is gone. We didn't even have ISS, like in-school suspension, and that works because they hate it because they're isolated from their peers. But if you give them out-of-school suspension, that's just a vacation. Because if they're not getting in trouble at home, then really it's not a punishment at all. They just get to do whatever that day. And then, if you give them an after-school detention, they just don't show up. Because what's going to happen? Oh, they just get suspended. They don't care. Like, the only punishment that really works is in-school suspension. And we didn't have it because we didn't have enough teachers. Like, we didn't have anybody to do it. And so, it's awful to be put in an environment like that and expected to teach. I didn't have a projector. There was no technology at all. I had markers and a dry erase board, and that was it. And then about 3, or I think maybe the 4th year that I was there, I got a projector, and they broke it on like the 2nd day, and I paid for it myself. I just bought one myself and brought it in because that's what you had to do. And of course, they busted it. And I mean, how are you supposed to? You can't do a PowerPoint. You can't do, like, how are you supposed to teach? It's like they give you an ice pick and a block of, or they give you a block of ice and like a wooden toothpick, and they're like, all right, carve Pinocchio. Like, how are you supposed to do it without any tools? And it's like, oh, and we're gonna release these 2 wild cougars in here while you do it. Like, it's just a terrible situation. The only thing I could do is try to make the lesson.
So it's not just that they're not teaching themselves and the high tech and distractions of YouTube and stuff. It's just the discipline problem of the bottom rung in some of these schools, where we decided you have to teach everyone. So you can't do anything about people who are coming in even when they're being physically violent.
Right. So I'll give you one more example, and not to beat it to death, but this is important. So I took this kid's phone away. Like, that happens, right? Actually, 3 of them all at once. But one of them, he started cussing me out. He grabbed a laptop and threw it across the room. And I called the principal, but they usually took about 15 minutes. So what I did is, like, I took his phone, like, you want your phone? Come get it. And he followed me out in the hall. And I walked him down to the principal's office, gave the phone to the principal. I was like, deal with him. Went straight back to the room. I got written up for leaving the classroom. Kid didn't get in trouble. And then the kid switched and went to a different teacher because he was so upset about it. And he got suspended for, I think, 1 day for breaking the laptop, or he just didn't show up. I can't remember. But they put him in the other classroom. And I said, that kid's violent. And the other teacher is a female, and he really doesn't he had a problem with female authority even more. And I said, he's going to hit her. And he did. And they didn't listen to me. And the first day that he was in that class with that woman who was small, we're not talking about some Ronda Rousey chick. This was like a little petite woman. They smoked her right in the face. And I told him that's what was going to happen. And then when he did that, like, he finally got in trouble. But I mean, how are you supposed to teach when you have kids like that? And certain classes, they would pile on all the worst ones, and you would have first of all, you'd have 36 kids in there at once, and you should never have more than like 25. But they didn't have enough money to hire enough teachers, so we had empty classrooms that teachers could have been in. Like, we had the room, we had the space. The school looks nice, it's new, but nobody wants to work there, so they couldn't get enough teachers. So you'd have over 35 kids at a time. And sometimes you'd have 30 out of 36 that had an IEP. I mean,
What?
How, a history of problems, okay? So how do you teach in that kind of environment? And the only thing you could do is try to mesmerize them with whatever you're doing and turn into Robin Williams and get up there and really put everything into it and get them involved in whatever. But you can't maintain that. And I'm sorry, but you shouldn't have to either. And there's just no discipline at all. The more that you write kids up for doing stuff wrong, the worse it looks on you. Like, if you break up a lot of fights, every time that you break up a fight, that's a check mark against the teacher, right? Mm-hmm. And so they say, well, you've been breaking up, you've had this many fights. It's like, no, I haven't had that many fights. That one was in the hall. That one was in the lunchroom. Wasn't even my kids. I just broke it up because I can't, whereas not all teachers can. Like, sometimes you got old people or whatever. And I really just had enough of it, so I quit teaching. And the pay sucks. North Carolina's started out $30,000 a year, which is, criminal for somebody to be doing that and getting paid less than the night watch at Dairy Queen. I mean, what's the point? Like,
We had a system in Japan paying people only $11,000 a year. They were you might as well. You definitely need 2 or 3 jobs with that salary, and it imploded, of course, because that's just non-functional. But
Yeah.
whole thing was run by mob and stuff like that. But we never had like a big problem discipline-wise. Nothing really. Maybe kids tease each other. They talk about bullying like it's a big problem in Japan. It's really not. It's just normal teenagers being teenagers, but they have nothing else to point to. I mean, they make their own lunches, they clean their own school, they're quiet and listen, they study, they go to cram school. I just can't even imagine someone pushing someone on the steps or something. That would be a scandal. And they'd immediately be like kicked out of school and maybe go to jail if you acted like that over here.
We had 42 fights in the first month. 42.
But the other thing is the Japanese government does not subsidize broken homes. So most of the kids have a father.
Yeah, well,
I think that makes a difference.
Obviously, but there's nothing the school can do about that.
We also, high school's not automatic. You have to earn your way in.
Well, high school's not as bad as junior high because after they turn 16, they can quit. So a lot of the really, really, really bad kids are gone. By the time you get to be a junior or senior, a lot of those outliers, that bottom rung, they're gone. But in middle school, they're not allowed to do that.
Well, what do the other kids think, when there's this just 6 or 7 kids disrupting things every day?
They're so frustrated. They're so frustrated, but they're also terrified. So they don't really say anything. They don't want to get jumped. And, it sucks, man. It sucks for the kids that want to learn. And they, every now and then you'll have a beautiful day where your lesson was just so good that even the horrible kids got sucked into it. But you got to kind of teach like the rest of the class and then teach those kids something different. Get them involved, bring them up, like give them something to do. And it's awful, man. It's just like there's no help from anyone. There's no appreciation. The pay sucks, and at one point we had a staff meeting. 75 something faculty in the library after school, and we had to line up by seniority, like who had been there the longest, right? At this point, I had only been there 3.5 years. I was the 4th most, right? I'd been there. The PE teacher, because that's not as hard, had been there longer, and one English teacher, and that was it. Everybody else was more new than I was because nobody lasted at that school. The moment they could get a job teaching somewhere else, they took it, or they just quit teaching altogether. Like, that movie that's been done 1,000 times where somebody goes to a school like that and it's horrible, and then all of a sudden they're like, rapping Shakespeare at the end and all getting along. That's bullshit.
Yeah, no shit. Dangerous Minds. I mean, you can't just come in and couple conversations and all the kids start listening and want to learn.
No, man. No.
By the way, Entropy, somebody pop the cherry. Let's see if it's working. Odysee isn't working. I had my brother on, hoping to get him some shekels. And it's radio silence. Y'all have to have questions about education, or you can ask about Japan too. I haven't talked my stories yet, but it is night and day. My complaints about Japan are not what they're teaching, it's what people are saying they're teaching. This left-wing propaganda that says, oh, they're atrocity deniers and da-da-da-da. Just isn't true. It just isn't true. And if it was, I would say so. I don't have any loyalty to government of anywhere. It's a lie. And I see it over and over again, because since Abe was killed, they talk about him and go, well, he was a war criminal and he denied the atrocities of the comfort women and blah, blah, blah. No, he didn't. They kept saying it about him. It wasn't true. It's like of Donald Trump when they're like, he said they are rapists. No, he said there are rapists. And there are. But they, they lie about Abe more than they did Trump, which is amazing. It's all this propaganda from China, and the left wing eats it up because, like, ooh, China, not America. They must be the good guys. Wrong. Both governments are evil. It's government. China's horrible. I think I have a way of playing this 6-minute video, so I'll get that in there while you have your questions. You can ask about the assassination too, because I've heard a whole bunch of bullshit conspiracy theories about this one. So let's see if I can share that screen. Let's see. This one. Oh, yes. Okay, here we go. Can you see that? Do you see something, Scott?
Do I see anything?
Yeah, you should see me with a yellow hat on there. Oh, all right. Well, we'll see. Here we go.
I can see there's no sound.
Well, there's no fucking audio, so there's no reason to show it. You couldn't hear what I'm saying. You can't hear me explaining. There's nothing I can do about it. The nerd that I have that fixes this stuff lives in Norway. He's asleep when I broadcast, which is kind of pointless because problems always happen while I'm broadcasting. It really doesn't matter if we fix them afterwards. There'll be a new one. But that's what I have. There's no one over here that can do it, and I will not hire Americans because they are unreliable. They'll show up on time like 3 times in a row and then disappear half the time. That's been my experience every time. It's real easy because it's night, morning. It's very good. Australia, New Zealand, or America would be fine, especially the East Coast. But they don't fucking work. So I hire Scandinavians and stuff because even though the time zones are shit, they actually do what they say and are reachable, while they're awake or whatever. Whereas I will not hire anybody under 35 either because they are totally unreliable. And I think a lot of it too is drugs. Like fucking half the population is smoking weed now. It pisses me off. I hate having tech issues like this. I went all over Japan to make that video and edited it all night long and stuff. And then the fucking thing doesn't play. And then Streamlabs shits the bed. So we're using StreamYard. It's my 3rd time using it ever. It's live. So I have to fuck with it. And it can't. Fucking blows. And there's no shekels either. So it's like, hey, you get what you pay for. It's free. So whatever. Entropy is the only way people can donate because Odysee also doesn't work. Fucking Odysee. And I'll tell you what's wrong with them. Pot. Like, you're like, oh, you own this thing. You got an alternative YouTube. All these people are there. Even Russia Today is there. And then you go to their Twitter and they're fucking playing video games and smoking weed. It's like, hey, buddy, could you make an edit video button or maybe cut off the lag in the live streams or, any of these millions of issues? No. Can't be bothered with that. Gotta get high and eat Lucky Charms or whatever. Fucking sucks. I'm really pissed off. I've been trying to show this video for like 4 days. There's nowhere to do it. If I was allowed on YouTube, just boom, upload YouTube, done. Easy. Odysee, you can't do that. You got to put in a stream code and all this bullshit and set up your thumbnail and certain time of day, and you have to go exactly within minutes of that or it doesn't render and and there's audio issues and you can't even watch it on Odysee because it stops every few seconds to buffer and stuff. You have to go watch it somewhere else and then comment over there. Like they've really fucked creators over by kicking them off YouTube and all the mainstream platforms because the alt platforms, even though they're free speech, they don't work. It doesn't matter if I put it on someone else's YouTube. I've done that before. YouTube finds them within a week or so and bans them. And if you have no audience, who cares if 10 people see something, right? It takes a long time to build up a channel. I had 15 fucking years on YouTube to get to where I was, and they just erase it because these woke faggots are like, oh, you offended me when you said we're not allowed to kill Palestinians. Best dressed guest pops a cherry, says, cheer up, buddy. Technology in industrial society sucks sometimes. What's your favorite surrogate activity? So you can tell this motherfucker's read the Unabomber's manifesto. What's your favorite surrogate activity? Can I guess? I'm going to go with surfing.
For me, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think my favorite surrogate activity would be then?
Jiu-jitsu, maybe?
Probably. Yeah, it's jiu-jitsu or kickboxing. Recently, more so jiu-jitsu. It's easier to do. With fucking fighting, definitely any kind of fighting is my favorite surrogate activity. For sure. I don't really do much else. I fight in politics and stuff, and I fight with my hands and feet. I'm not really interested in other stuff. Just pretty violent person. I mean, I did sports and all that when I was in school, and I enjoyed it, but it was like not really, not compared to fighting. There's nothing more satisfying than watching somebody just go limp in your arms because they can't breathe. But anyway, surfing, bodyboarding, anything in the ocean is pretty tranquil and fun. Fishing too. I like fishing when there's, because I like to eat them, you know. But I've never found, like, I like to read too, I guess. But the thrill, man, of combat, there's nothing to me that can replace that. I don't know what I'm gonna do when I'm too old to fight. I gotta be, I don't know. Maybe I'll start firearms or something.
Wheelchair boxing.
What's that?
Wheelchair
boxing. Yeah, lancing. I did jousting too. Remember that? Yeah, Odyssey sucks balls sometimes. P Dizzy with 25 says, boom, there you go. Now you have made shekels and it was worth keeping you up tonight. Thank you, Entropy. Entropy has been a fucking godsend, I tell you that much. Because back when Odysee didn't exist and Rumble didn't exist and VK couldn't live stream yet, Entropy was the only way, because all of us were demonetized on YouTube. And no way we get. I got my Google AdSense banned by Gabe Hoffman. He also got my Patreon banned, and he got my PayPal banned, and then he got my YouTube channel removed. He's this little Jew in Florida that's like, you're a Jew hater. I'm like, I don't hate Jews. I hate you, but it ain't because you're a Jew. I hate you because you're a fucking asshole that getting me banned on everything. I got 3 kids to raise, and you undermine my finances. You're a little terrorist. And so these little shits have power online, because on Twitter or whatever, they can just whine and cry. It's like little brother syndrome, just me until you get canceled. And you could have 100,000 followers or whatever, and there's some nobody shit. But if they just sit there and yell racism or something like that, they know they can get you removed. They just removed Jordan Peterson from Twitter like 4 days ago.
Dang.
He's a psychologist out of Canada. He's helped a lot of people, a lot of young men especially. He's not saying anything radical, just, you know, don't make me use different pronouns, that kind of stuff. They banned him. He's too helpful, I guess.
He doesn't care.
Yes, he does. He was pissed off. He's like, ban me for what? You know, that was a reach. That's how, look, if Jordan Peterson wasn't on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, you wouldn't know who he was. He never would have been on Rogan. He never would have been, because he wouldn't have been noticeable. When you're not in the town square, you cannot grow. You see, even if you have the talent of Jordan Peterson, which, like, I don't, whatever. I know a lot of people like him, but you wouldn't have access to him if he got banned from the town square. If Jordan Peterson was only on Odysee, Rumble, Bitchute, whatever, you wouldn't know who the fuck he was, because no one looks at that stuff. The only people with prominent channels on alt media are people who used to have channels in mainstream media, and a portion of their fan base followed them over to BitChute or whatever. You cannot organically grow off of Gab or Odysee. It's not happening. Even like Russia Today, you know, we'll get, 40,000 standard per video on YouTube, or 24 people watching a story. Okay, that's how bad it is. When you go to watch a video on your phone, what do? You go to YouTube. That's what like 99% of boomers do. They just go on YouTube and watch videos. Nothing else. Maybe, I guess, TikTok, Instagram, the same kind of shit. They're not going to Odysee or Rumble. They ought to, but they don't. Now, I know the people I'm talking to, y'all are different. I mean, you guys really hate the system. Like, anybody follow me around from the fucking whack-a-mole platform to platform to platform has to really hate the assholes. Hexagon Tony sends $4.20, says, to the lazy Americans. Ha ha, that's funny. Do you know how 420 started?
No.
Because somebody rumored that was the drug code for marijuana. It's not. All drug codes start with 3. The drug code for pot is 311. But being lazy and stupid, they're like, yeah, and like after school around that time's when you light up. But they thought it was the drug code, and it wasn't. And now it was just funny. because it's Hitler's birthday. That's why they chose that and lied. And all the potheads never bothered to look it up. And they're like, 420, bro. I'm like, okay, 420, bro. But that's Hitler's birthday. It was like a 4chan meme before 4chan. These are the same people that told the shit libs that the OK hand symbol meant white power because it looks like a W and a upside down P like that, I guess. Then it would be an M though. But they one of them's name is Corey. He got a university, I think in Seattle or something, to say peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are racist. And they wrote up a whole they took it dead serious and about how PB&J is racist. This is where I see the decline. Now I hear your argument about your situation in a certain school where almost nobody can learn, even when they segregate the classes into like medium, low, and high learners or whatever. The disciplinary problems make it almost impossible. But I think surely you've been in a school where you don't have fights breaking out and stuff too, and still, I guess with them being able to cheat by downloading lesson plans online and plagiarizing and stuff is part of it. But what are some other problems with education? Like, why do people not know the most basic things?
I think it's because there's so much focus on getting high test scores on the state test, because that's what the teachers are judged by. That's how they keep their jobs. That's what the school is judged by. So everything is kind of like geared toward passing that test. So, and you don't really know what's on it. You know what was on it the year before, and so you kind of have to guess. But a lot of what they need to learn, for sure is not on it. So you don't put a lot of time into that. And then as soon as they take the state test, then you can actually teach what you think is relevant. But at that point, there's like a week of school left because they take the state test at the end of the year. And I think that's what the problem is there's so much emphasis on growth and test scores and state testing that's all anybody's trying to do is teach that. And the reason it is like that is because if they didn't have state tests, then you could be doing whatever and no one would know. There's no measuring stick. But I think there needs to be a happy medium where you can still have state testing, but it shouldn't be the end all. That way you could teach them things that are not on the state test. When it comes to history, it's like everything on that test is basically like just almost too generic. It's too broad, everything. So they never get into details of anything. And that makes it boring. And it makes class boring. And so it makes kids hate it. And if they hate it, they won't retain it. And so what I would do is teach whatever I wanted and felt like they could learn. And then about a month before the state test, I'd say, okay, we're going to learn this test. And these are the categories. This is what they're going to say. And all the time it was like, well, on the state test, answer it this way. But in real life, it's not true. Here's what actually happened, which is sad, But there's so much like if you saw this test, it's like so bad. Almost all of it's bullshit. And
it's indoctrination.
It is. There's absolutely way too much emphasis on state test, and the teachers are held to the fire with that. And it's the same in science and every subject is, get the kids' scores up, make the kids grow, have all three categories grow. Because that's how they funding, that's how they look good. Everything is tied to that. And that sucks because it ruins education. That and the discipline problems, which there's nothing you can really do about. But I worked at other schools that weren't, full of gangs and all that, and it's 1,000 times easier, and the kids learn way more. You have smaller class sizes. You don't have all the thugs. So easy, man. But you still have that overemphasis on state testing, though, and you still have fights, of course. Like it doesn't matter. Like you go to prep school in the world, you're still gonna have a couple of scrap or whatever, but not like 42 in 1 month and somebody coming to school with a baby on their hip and attacking a child or
Hexican
whatever.
Tony chimed in with a dead Lincoln and said, standardized tests takes the fun out of learning. I remember that growing up. I knew we were not being pushed to our potential.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you do need standardized tests. It just wouldn't be so weighted. I mean, you got to have some way of testing the school. Like, what are they learning? But those tests suck. Like, the standardized test needs to be better, have some details about this or that. And you can go ahead and tell
Right.
them what's on the test. Like, look, if they know it, they know it. You know, what's it matter if the teachers know what's on the test or not? Okay, you want them to
The
learn this,
teachers,
this, and this? I'll teach them that. You know,
and they don't tell you what's on it.
why?
You got it like a vague. I don't know. You have a vague idea, like because you could look at past tests. That okay, they want them to know the super broad shit, like the three branches of government, right? Like stuff like that. That's okay. Yeah, well, I'll make sure they can do that. And all right, but because it's a state test, it's all going to be multiple choice, right? So you can't really. What multiple choice tests do is they make the really bright kids scores worse, and they make the really bad kids scores better because you can always guess and happen to get something right. And then you could be like a kid that overthinks things, and it's like if you ask them about this topic, they can tell you everything about it, but they get this question wrong because you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. And it's just kind of, I think, yes, have state testing, of course. You got to have some kind of measuring stick to make sure they're not just teaching them willy nilly, whatever. But there's way too much emphasis on it. There's way too much emphasis on that. Or have, there's all kinds of things you could do, but yeah, tell the teachers what's on the test, at least somewhat, and then you could teach them that. It's like if that's what you want them to learn, then fine, you know. But
Yeah, get
they
that
don't.
out of the way and have more days to learn other things.
Yeah, right. Because it'd be a lot more interesting for the kids if they could learn like about their area. You know what I mean? Because they don't really care about what's going on in India in 1580. These kids, especially out of school that's like the one I was at, most of them have never left the state, and it's really hard for them to be interested in anything that is far away. It might as well be Neptune, and they don't. I don't know. Yeah, discipline problems is the number one problem, and number two is the overemphasis on state testing. And then number three, I think with all this technology, it's just really, really easy to cheat, and
Wouldn't you
all that
say the
crap.
discipline problem links to all the single mothers?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's statistics that bear that
Yeah,
out. Like,
this is a segue. I brought up Peterson's censorship from Twitter. He did this scathing video on them, and then I follow. I have friends who are magicians and stuff, and mentalists. A lot of mentalists are also psychologists, or at least into that. And they were talking about how narcissists are created, and all the way on to psychoapathy. But what happens is, as a baby, a baby needs attention from their parents. And if the parents give them the proper amount of attention, it's all good. But if they ignore them, if they neglect them, first the baby's gonna whine, fuss, scream, eventually cry. and maybe after crying a full-on temper tantrum. And then after that is quiet. And when it reaches to the level where it's just quiet is the most dangerous, because that means it's turning internally for attention in its own little world where it's learned to just shut its emotions off and deal with this little invented universe it comes up with. If that goes on long enough, if you would just listen to them, and I see this all the time, some kid, mom, and she's doing something, just fucking ignore him. Like, just turn around and say what? And she's getting all frustrated because the kid keeps saying her name. And like, well, there is a way to make that stop. Turn around and ask what they want. But they know. Yeah, I just, or they just turn around and smack them or whatever. And then some of the fathers just aren't even there with that kid, or even as an infant, they start learning to shut down emotionally, and they turn inward, and then they start seeking attention from whomever. The false audience syndrome, which is what narcissism is. It is not arrogance. That's how it's used in literature, is like, oh, a narcissist is somebody who's really vain and in love with themselves or whatever. Clinical narcissism from psychology is not vanity. It's a really horrible sense of insecurity where you think everyone's watching you. What will the neighbors think? Everyone's judging you. Everyone's paying attention to you when they're not. But they've created this thing because they needed to get attention from others. So they just, in their mind, convince themselves that, okay, my parents are ignoring me, but, I have this other audience. And a lot of these kids that come to school are just craving negative attention, because the easiest type of attention to get is negative attention. Getting positive attention is hard unless you're beautiful. Getting negative attention, really easy. Just be violent. Yell and interrupt people, and everyone will look at you. It's the same problem these narcissists have, who have to get on a fucking motorcycle and go, look, I'm being loud. Look at me. Oh, I made people look at me. They noticed me because I'm on a fucking noisemaker with a micro dick. That's what people who drive around on loud motorcycles are. They're just screaming, pay attention to me. And the kind of people who get a tattoo on their face, like this shooter in Illinois. He tattooed his face, screaming again, pay attention to me. And that is a product of neglect. But when they have kids, they do the same thing, because people get up more and more narcissistic and more selfish, and they should not have kids, because they're going to be so self-absorbed, and that's going to create self-absorbed kids, because they're going to ignore them, and then the kids are going to turn inward. Self-absorption. This is how shit libs are created, broken homes. And it started with the breakdown of the nuclear family. Fucking liberals. There's nothing worse for your society than liberals. You could deal with fascists, you could deal with anything's better than shit libs, because they attack children. They want to give them fucking hormones and change their sex. They let, oh, what's the 5-year-old think he ought to dress? No, you're their parent. 5-year-olds are dumb. Like, they have no experience. They don't get to decide, oh, I'm going to wear a dress to school today. No, you're not. Severe lack of fathers, because the government has said, hey, you can take half his shit and then get money from the state. All you got to do is kick him out of the house. A lot of women take that deal. And that's why a lot of guys aren't getting married now, or they're not getting married till they're like 40 years old. And, because it's not a good deal. If it doesn't work out, he's going to lose half his stuff. He'll lose his children. Why should he take that deal? And a lot of women, not a lot, I shouldn't say that, but there are too many women that don't even want a marriage. They just want a wedding. They just want a big day of, look at me, look at my dress, look at my thing. They're trying to impress other girls.
Yeah.
Not looking for a long-term romance or whatever. They're just going to cheat on them and stuff anyway. And that's how it is now. It's like not. This has happened really fast, and I think a lot of it had to do with dating apps. Because like, if you're a girl and you're above a 5, then you can sit on a dating app and get validated all day. Because if you're like a 6 and you're good at editing pictures and stuff, you can be an 8. And so you have simps just feeding you attention all day. Just swipe right, left, whatever the fuck it is, Tinder, right? Guy upon guy upon guy, because it's like 90-something% dudes and the rest of it's robots. But if you're a girl, you don't have to sit there for months on a dating app to find someone. You turn it on, you put your face on there, and you find someone the same day. So they can just trade upwards. And their loyalty is gone. So a lot of women fooling around. And as Kevin Samuel says, like, oh, you want that traditional wedding, but you're not a traditional woman. You're not a virgin. You're not loyal. You got like a guy on the side and a couple orbiters and stuff. And that's why there's so many incels. I mean, this whole thing's being broken down by the degeneracy that has flooded the market on dating apps, which is basically a theme for prostitution. And because that's what it is. Like every dating app just becomes how much? Because they're just trading up. What will you buy me? And you're still a whore. Even if you're getting paid through dinners and jewelry and gifts and stuff, you're basically selling your vagina. So you're a whore. Anyway, P. Dizzy for 10 says, any thoughts on Stacey Stanton murder in Manio and Denise Johnson in Kill Devil Hills and the connection between the two? My thoughts, Mike did it. He's dead now. There are new updates. Loved your Red Rodanthe book.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah, I can't. Like, I don't know. I can't really talk about that because I can't even really explain why. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
You are aware of the Stacey Stanton murder in Manio and Denise Johnson and KDH?
Yeah, and Leanne and Kitty Hawk too. And I really can't. I'd like to. I can't do that. Sorry.
I haven't heard of any of these things.
Oh.
I usually say last time we had someone murdered was 2005, but that's not true because Abe got murdered this month.
Yeah, the northern beach is getting bad, man. Like,
it's weird. America has all these guns and no politicians get shot. They just shoot each other. Japan has no guns. A guy builds one and shoots the longest consecutive prime minister. They went straight for the top with 0 guns. America, you can go buy an AR-15, and are Richard Pearl and John Bolton and these guys getting gutted with lead? No. What happens? They shoot each other over fucking tennis shoes and stuff. Starter jackets or whatever. When that thing happened in Illinois, there were 68 other shootings that same day just in that city. And by the way, Chicago outlawed guns. So apparently making it illegal really didn't sway the criminals. You can't talk about any of those. You can't talk about Johnson or Stanton.
Well, I mean, Stanton was murdered like in the 90s. And this dude, something Spencer, he got thrown in jail for it. And there was like no evidence at all. And the whole thing is like, I really not. I just don't want to. I don't want to talk about it. I'm gonna mess up something, but like with Leanne,
you don't want to talk about it ad lib,
right? Because
you like to prepare.
Yeah. It's just a sensitive thing, man. You know. But I'm glad they read Rodanthe. That's cool. Let's talk about that.
Oh yeah, they read it cover to cover in a day, I believe.
Yeah, it's real fast paced, and it's got a lot of. I think it's a page turner for sure.
I read it on the plane going to DC.
It's a little better now, upgraded.
Actually, I read it in the airport, all but like the last chapter, whatever. I read the last chapter on the plane.
Yeah, it holds your attention. It's got a good opening scene.
There was a request
seen
for a sex scene. I'm like, why? But that's what they wanted. Women love to read about sex. They'd rather read about sex than watch a porno.
I'd probably be good at that, but I don't want to, like, I have daughters and stuff, and they read the stuff that I write, so I didn't want to do that. I mean, there's a little bit of raunchiness in it, like
somebody flashes their bra at a kid or something.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of raunchy near the end. There's of what had happened, and well, I won't want to ruin the book or anything, but like they, you know what I mean. They wanted a hotel scene or something, I guess. But like, look, this isn't a romance novel. This is a mystery murder thing. So,
well,
maybe in the screen, yeah, Justin Hawkins is working on that very hard, trying to make Red Rodanthe to a movie.
And, yeah, probably have some topless, you know, like a little bit, but
sure,
it's more of a thriller.
And
a
lot of that stuff had happened to us, like this won't ruin it, like the fire alarm going off in a hotel and stuff.
Well, and I was
it's real, right?
And I was a EMT, and so I have some real life experience. All chatter on the radio is kind of realistic in the book because I know what it actually sounds like, and I know what all 911 calls are like, and all that crap that's in there is. I didn't take any real life experiences and put them in the book specifically because that would be fucked up. But just like, you know, in general, some of that comes when I was writing about it. Like, I know in that world, and but it's mostly a thriller, kind of like what's that movie, True Detective. Mix that with like Dexter, and set it in the 80s, like Stranger Things, and then had it on the Outer Banks, and that's Red Rodanthe.
It's good. Rodanthe's on the cover of the book, so just you could knock down Nicholas Sparks a peg on Amazon.
It took a year to get the leapfrog.
Well, it took coming on this show. There's houses in Rodanthe falling in the water now.
Yeah, I know. Last May, the road was shut down for 5 days straight, and then they had.
So I got a question for you about. I got another education question because I'm over here in a first world ethno state. So I will see like Mark Dice or jaywalking videos where they'll go up and ask people on the street the easiest things in the world, like I don't know, what's the capital of Florida, or not even that, like where is Florida on a blank map, and they don't know. Do you think they just sat there for hours and hours trying to find some stoner that couldn't answer a simple question? Or do you think there really are people that dumb that age?
If you're in a city, for sure, there's people that dumb all over the place.
In the city.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they
that dumb, like if you pointed to Australia and said, you know, how should we invade Iran, from the north or the east or what? I'm like, yeah, I think we should come in from the west. And it's clearly Australia and not Iran. You know, you could find someone that stupid.
In a city you could, because you have so many people walking by, so it wouldn't take like an hour. You know, probably every 10th person is that dumb.
10%?
Like, I don't know, man. I mean, I gave a 50 state like blank map to the kids, and these are 8th graders, right? And I said, all right, I thought it was a nice, like, easy grade. Like, you get 2 points for each one, get 100, right? Go.
Did they get to study beforehand?
No. I kind of wanted to see what they knew, you know? So you get 2 points for each one, and then 10 points for your name. So you could get 110. And because that way I figured if they missed like 5 states, still get 100. That was a nice, easy grade.
Mm-hmm.
The highest grade that I got was a 30.
What?
And I got 10 points for putting their name. So nobody got more than 10 states right.
Wait, 10 points for their name?
Yeah, 10 points for putting their name on the paper because I wanted them to put their freaking names on the papers. That was a problem.
Well, I assume they got like Carolina and Virginia. I assume they got South Carolina. No? All right, Alaska, Hawaii.
Most of them did get North Carolina and Virginia if they got any, but there were kids that didn't get North Carolina right, and they're in it. I thought, how do you not? I mean, just from the Weather Channel, you think they'd get that right? Like, how do you not know? I get.
Did they get Alaska and Hawaii?
They put Rhode Island for Hawaii because it had
Seriously?
the word island in it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I know.
They know where Texas is?
Well, yeah.
I kind of can see someone in 8th grade like screwing up Vermont and New Hampshire, like swapping them or something.
Yeah, sure.
Or I don't know. I just don't know.
Ohio, Indiana, something like that.
Okay,
like,
I bet if I gave blank maps to 8th graders in Japan, like this is written in English too, so they can't even read the words mostly, they would get more than 10 states.
Well, these kids didn't.
They would get Hawaii and Alaska, California,
Texas, Florida.
I don't know if they get Florida. They would if you put the word on the paper. They could match it, but they couldn't just write it. But yeah, they get all the coastal stuff.
Well,
that's amazing.
It is, man.
A lot of them, though, in Japan, they don't know it's Nevada. They think Las Vegas is the state, which that's fine. You know?
Same with these kids. I was really dumbfounded. So I said, okay, well, the first thing we're going to do is learn where North Carolina is. I wasn't mean about it. You know, I just, all right, well, we're going to learn about. I told them. And I broke it down into coastal region and Piedmont and mountains and stuff they should have learned when they were like 5. And, you know, basically taught them what they should have learned in elementary school and clearly had not. Because you cannot go further. If you don't know that, how are you going to know something more complicated? Because you're supposed to build on top. And if they don't have a foundation, you know, the geography used to be its own subject in school, and they took it out.
Yeah.
And now geography is a standard within social studies. So it's like one of a ton of standards that you're supposed to cover. And it should be its own subject. Yeah, I think it's important enough that geography should be its own subject because that is such a base.
It ought to be because it's not just knowing where states and countries are, but like mountain ranges and all that. We don't say names. We don't say names, but my middle child can name all the prefectures in Japan. He also knows all the birthdays of all the kids in his classes. And last night he was doing times tables of 29, and yeah, he's 4.
Right. Well,
I'm going to teach him the 50 states too. He'd enjoy that. Kids like that, man. Especially if you're like, "Oh wow, you got it!" You know, and give them a lot of praise. They're like they're real proud. You know, like yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
Like I can multiply by 27 too, but you know, I'm 43, so I don't take a lot of pride in that. But I'm like, I can't. What's too difficult? What is 27 times 8? And he'll just spit it out. I'm like, it's amazing. He's looking like, yeah, I'm a smart guy. You know, it's like
right. That's the kind of attention you want to give them for doing something instead of just whatever. But yeah, man, it's amazing how little the average person in America knows about the world.
I'm scared about it. Like, people assume that technological progress just kind of goes up automatically. It doesn't. You can dip. Well, I haven't been back to the moon. It's hard. And I don't think we
Yeah.
have enough people learning statistics, calculus, and so on. I don't think we're going to be able to pass information on to the next generation.
They're all from other
It's like
countries.
George Carlin said, just smart enough to run the machines and read the signs, keep them dumb on purpose.
Yeah.
And they're not dumb in an IQ sense. Some of them are, but because they can memorize all these sports statistics and the equivalent of intellectual prowess you would need to learn something in the humanities, they can learn if it's just like gossip about celebrities and whatever. I mean, some people could recite the entire Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, right? But not Epstein's.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of concentration and memory and all that to learn all that gossip. Enough. If you could do that, you could have learned about Ukraine or something,
But they don't care. They don't care about that.
Because they don't see the connection to the gas and fertilizer and why prices are going up and why their life is harder because of ignorance.
Yeah, well.
Whereas Johnny Depp's trial has no effect on your life, but the war in Ukraine does. But Johnny Depp's good looking, so it makes it interesting. And Amber Heard is good looking, so it makes it interesting.
They're famous. That's why it's interesting.
They're famous because they're good looking.
Partly, yeah. And
she's famous because she's good looking.
For sure.
He's charming and has some talent, but she does not. She is what's the opposite of charm? Amber Heard?
No.
Nah, not boring, like negative charm, you know what I mean? That just off-putting bitchiness, whatever. She's as not charming. She's as not charming as Depp is charming. You know what I mean? Kamalaism, yeah. But Johnny Depp is a very charming guy. Like he's got that kind of charisma. And Amber Heard is so off-putting. Like if she didn't have a statuesque face, like nobody could put up with her for 2 seconds. She's just such a maniacal, manipulative, like cunt. And Depp, he could do every drug, do whatever, and it's just cool, chill, man. Like whatever. Nobody cares.
I never heard of her until this trial, and I still haven't ever listened to her, so I can't say anything about her because I don't know anything about her. But
she's pretty evil. She's an Aquaman and stuff, but she's just one of these. She's fairly intelligent, for a girl, and she looks the way she does. So she's been able to just ream people her whole life. And she lost pretty bad in this trial. She lied about Depp and wrote an article. She said she would donate all $7 million or whatever, some charity, and she hadn't. She just mixing up the words donations and what was it called? Pledged, yeah. Just a liar.
Well, I promised to give all this money. I didn't do it, but I promised it, and that should be good enough.
I pledged it, but then I got sued. Well, that was 2 years later. She's awful. Violent too. I mean, throwing things, throwing beer cans and plates and stuff, and that's an emotional wreck when you're just tossing furniture and stuff. That's monkey level behavior. And throwing things. She's a monkey. But she's got nice cheekbones, so that's carried her for a lot of her life. That will end in a few years. And when you're that angry all the time, you're going to age fast. So it really comes down to parenting. I think a big problem with education is a problem with parenting. Like you said, the number one problem, at least for lower end schools, is discipline.
Yeah.
Would you agree? And that starts at home. That starts at home. The state has a bit to bear of that too. But I also think they're not seeing, and this matters. I used to think, oh, this doesn't matter. But we used to see in sitcoms and stuff, like kind of indirectly, family, like how families behave. Well, this might be a bad example now, but like the Cosby Channel, the Cosby Show, or whatever, Different Strokes, whatever the hell was on. What's the one with Alyssa Milano? The hell. But
I don't
anyway,
know.
there are all these family sitcoms, so you could see kind of interactions and problem resolution and stuff. One of the kids would have a problem with something. The parents would work it out by the end of the episode, all the way until you got married with children, which was a comedy. And Roseanne, which more like down to life, kind of redneck family, whatever, but they loved each other and they worked it out, you know. Even like Wizards of Waverly Way or whatever, they'd still have, mom, dad, kids, and you're kind of seeing how they have conflict resolution, even though it's a sitcom and it's entertainment, whatever.
Yeah, it's not shameless.
It's not shameless. Now it's just a reality TV show of attention whores. And the more you act out, the more like merit doesn't get you a reward. Spazzing out does. Like we're throwing gas on the spur to fire.
I mean,
I
that's how
think that might
Congress
matter.
Congress is like that.
Yeah, the celebrities are the AOCs and Marjorie Taylor Greens. Like the more like wild stuff you're willing to say and act out, the more clout you get.
Yeah. That's just the world we're in, man. I mean, whoever cries the loudest wins.
Different Strokes. Wasn't that with the what you talking about, Willis? What the hell that was?
I don't even remember, man.
I remember seeing a bunch of family shows though. Mike
Yeah.
Seeger, I don't know what the hell that was, but
it's Growing Pains and
Growing Pains, maybe, or like the Full House. Full
Who's the
House
Boss?
was three dads, and I guess
They were like uncles.
Right, a father and two uncles, and one of them had a girlfriend, and I think she became their aunt. The John Stamos character's woman, Becky or whatever.
I don't.
Full House became Fuller House. But you'd see family stuff that really isn't on anymore, and I think some people that bit of programming does matter. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
Yeah, remember when Batman didn't use guns or like kill anyone?
Right.
Yeah.
He still doesn't do that. I hope.
He uses guns. Yeah.
He'd use like a freeze gun or something like that, but not like bullets. Because the comic code forbid the use of firearms in comic books. So the bad guys could like hold a gun and stuff, but they could never shoot it. That's why they ended up using like gas pellets and trick umbrellas and all kinds of weird workarounds in the Batman comics, because you weren't allowed to have guns. So he's throwing boomerangs and stuff, whatever. And they later like, oh, you can have guns now. So they switched it to, since his parents were murdered by a gun, they just was like against guns because it's all or nothing. And he didn't believe in killing. He thought people could be redeemed, and it's part of his philosophy. But the real reason it started was just because they weren't allowed to use guns. They wasn't allowed to animate that. So all the books had to find a way around it. So like Spider-Man, fine, he's got webbing, but why aren't the bad guys? Why don't they just shoot him? That's always the question, right? Because in America, you could just go buy a gun and shoot the superhero. So they had to find some very creative ways to get around that and disarm them and stuff. But
Superman,
the best Batman ever is Adam West.
For sure. It is. Sure. Adam West, man. He had the eyebrows on the
best Superman. Dude, Adam West is the man. He became the mayor of Family Guy.
I know, and he played himself.
It's his voice, and he just played it. Adam West as the mayor. I'd like Adam West to be the mayor, but if like, Batman became the mayor. They always have comic book references in Family Guy too. Slight, little thing.
Hmm.
Comic books too. That's a good way to get people to read. I think a lot of young boys they
Yeah,
hate reading because they're
yeah,
forced to read like Maya Angelou and the Scarlet Letter and just trash like that, and they never really get the joy of reading unless somebody outside of school hands them a real book.
yeah. It sucks, man, but that's true. And you know, the first book I ever wrote was meant to be just used for eighth and ninth grade boys, because that was the category of kids that read the least. And I wrote Mosquito Fleet, and it's a boy book. I mean, it's war and whatever. And the school used it, and the kids, they said it's the best book I've ever read. But it was because for a lot of them, it was the only book they'd ever read. They'd read portions of books, and of course, they read little kid books when they were young, but they'd never read a novel before, even the one they had to. They just read as little as possible to get by and get a C, or like watch a movie on it or cheat or whatever. Anything other than read the damn book. And I remember doing that in school myself when I was young, but I just hated it. I'd rather like eat gravel than read a book that I didn't want to read. So this gave them something to read that they wanted to read, and I made it take place in their island that they lived on, and it made it interesting for them. I never meant for that book to go anywhere or do anything. I wrote it for those kids, and it's on Amazon though. Mosquito Fleet um, of Hatteras is what it's called. Mosquito Fleet of Hatteras. It's a really good book if you got like a 13, 14, 15-year-old boy that doesn't like reading. They'll read that one because
Yeah,
it's
I
you
remember
know
enjoying like when we were like 7 or 8 years old having books read to us. Remember Mr. Jim reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, a couple chapters a day or
yeah.
something. And it's interesting having an adult read to you makes you want to go get it and read it yourself. Of course, this is before Amazon and all that, and we don't have bookstores in Hatteras, so you just someone has the book, they got to read it to everybody, or they're being rude. Uh, Now you could just order the book, but back then you couldn't. I got one on Rumble that's set from Haziel Haziel one. Thanks, Ryan. Well, I just deleted both dating apps I had. Didn't need them, couldn't meet anyone from them, and hearing you made me realize how derogatory they are. Yeah, dating apps are um, closet prostitution. It's just sugar babies looking for guys to take care of them and desperate guys looking for pussy. That's all it is. Like they're just looking for a hookup. And the ratio on it is 9-1 guys to girls. And kind of girls on a dating app aren't quality or they're just gold diggers. You're not going to meet a good woman on a dating app. You're not. And if she's some trash bag hoe doing that, she's on to the next guy the next day. I mean, she could line up. If you're a good looking girl and got on a dating app, you could get 100 dates like back to back to back. If you just said yes, because the guys will do it and they'd meet you. You could live off that. You can make a career off that for a while. If you're a good looking girl, you could go on OnlyFans and make $1,000 showing your feet or whatever. Shake your butt, you make some money. If you have no shame, like why even go to school? Like if you're attractive nowadays with computers and you're a girl and you have fucking no decency or self-respect, all you got to do is shake your titties around. Don't even have to take them out of your bra. A lot of guys will pay you, and you can make a lot of money, and you wouldn't have to get like a job, no problem. If you're a guy, on the other hand, you're pretty fucked. Stay away from that stuff. And I'll tell you that my second bit of advice: the worst place to look for a woman is on a dating app. The second worst place is probably at a club or a bar, because that's just a filter for trash.
Yep.
Okay, that's the worst. Go to the beach. If you're near a beach, go to a beach. Go to a mall. Go to a coffee shop or something. They're full of women all the time, right? Or a girls' university or something like that if you're of age. Go to a gym. And there's not a lot of girls in the gym, but the girls that are in the gym, quality. You know, there are other beacons that attract the good girls. Okay, that should be your hunting ground. You want to stay the fuck away from alcohol and computers because that's just trash.
Yeah.
I mean, I
We're
guess you could find somebody on computer if you're just reading their blog or something, but you know what I mean, like a dating app. And e-girls are whores. Uh, Lauren Sutherland just did a tell-all. Like they're all just, yeah. I ain't gonna get into it. It's sluts all the way down. Um, but there are other social things. I mean, if you're religious, I guess go to a church. I mean, there's plenty of places to meet people in real life. IRL, they call it. Um, you just have to nut up and break the ice. Like that's the hardest part. And the rest is they're going to decide yes or no within the first 5 minutes.
yeah.
And if it's a no, move along. Don't sit there and think if I try hard enough and do enough stuff, I can win this person. Just way better odds. Just go, okay, next one, And I'll
Yeah.
tell you a little bit of advice for guys too. Instead of chasing girls, chase yourself. Because when you start chasing yourself is when they start chasing you. Put all that time and effort into a business or going to the gym or something that's going to improve you yourself. Because it's 100% return. If you go and lift weights and you're disciplined like that, you will see results, right? If you put things into making money and stuff, you're it's either going to do well or not. But if you don't do it, it's 100% not. But the more you better yourself, the less you have to chase. Because when you got your own house in order, girls come to you.
And remember, the best pickup line is a white powdery one.
Yes. Oh, that's awful.
That's true, though.
Your books. Okay, so Scott has a Substack with a list of his books on it. I appreciate Pete Izzy putting links to all the Amazon stuff, but we have created a page for that where you have that page saved, right? Where you can go and get his works, or we will have it real soon.
I have.
Yeah, get rid of your dating apps. Don't fall into that fish food. Like Tinder's the only one I know of, but I know there's a bunch of them. I think Grindr's one, isn't it? So I heard about that. Fumble or something, but they're all the same. Like, if your girl has access to that many guys at once at her fingertips, unless you're in that top half of 1%, forget about it. Because those guys are going to be there. They're just gonna no until they find that one. It's been great for Sigma males or whatever because they can just gather everybody, but it probably isn't who I'm talking to. Can you get me the Substack link later, Scott? To that page?
Yeah, so I was trying to look up. I got a QR thing. Shut up.
Oh, you have a QR code. Yeah. So I got a QR code. Fancy now. Upgraded now. Where you can scan the QR code and it'll go to the Substack page with all the book. Almost all but one of the books is on there.
Yeah.
I will put the QR code up on A&C report. And then you can just hold your phone camera up to it and it'll go to it. I can also put a link on there. But if you have the QR code, you're also welcome to right click and save it, print it out, put it on a flyer, do whatever you want with it. Same with Corn Pop's Revenge. I would advise taking that QR code and just stick it in public places. Spinning squirrel if you're really nutty. You got to be nuts to put the spinning squirrel out. But if you just have you seen him? People are curious. What the fuck is a spinning squirrel? And then they get in there and they go, "Oh my, what have I gotten into?"
Yeah.
Someone says, "Don't
Well,
make me QR." Well, a lot of people use the QR. People under 50 or whatever, but the regular link will be on there as well. Did I miss the answer to my Shekelchat, Scott? Let's see. Did you? We talked about the Stanton and Johnson murders for like 20 minutes. Were you just were not there or what?
that's messed up, man.
Well, I mean, they shekel chatted and then I guess they just left or something, so they missed the answer.
No, we didn't really talk about it too much. I
No, we
can't.
didn't. Yeah,
I can't really
it's
talk
all
about it.
recorded. It's be recorded anyway, so you could just listen to it again on Rumble. But
Yeah.
no,
Well,
it's a sensitive topic. It's something that's complicated. We'd rather prepare, and it's better not to talk about those things.
this woman was murdered in Manio, and the guy she was stabbed to death. It was horrible. And the guy that got accused of doing it is his name was like Cliff Spencer. There was really no evidence at all.
Do they
And
ban knives?
no, he was from Colombia, which is like about 45 minutes away from Manio. And they let him out of jail as they realized like way too late that he did not do it. But they never figured out who it really was. And the same thing in Kill Double Hills.
Well, they did find out who it was. Carol Baskin.
No, I got an idea, but I'm not going to say that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to accuse somebody of murder on a.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if that Shekelchat person was standing in front of me, I'd tell him.
It was Carol Baskin.
I'm not going to do that. No.
Well, you can tell me later, and I'll tell them.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
But that's a really big accusation to do online, and so I just can't.
Yeah, I know. I accuse people of raping kids, so I make sure I got a lot of evidence before I do that, or I'd be sued to Kingdom Come. But I do have a lot of evidence.
And I don't have that. I just have shit that I've heard. You know.
Right. That's what I heard. Ooh, we're at 5% on the fundraiser. That's exciting.
Yeah.
95% to go. Okay, somebody donate. We got 11 days left, so that is to release 3 A&C films, including another kind of addendum to NUMEC that I cut because I didn't want to make it too long on there.
Yeah.
And now I regret it. I think I should have left it in, but it's in there.
Hey, I gotta bow out here, man. I use the computer for some work stuff, but yeah, man.
Okay. I'll talk to you later about the murders.
All right.
That's Scott Dawson. He's gonna have a Substack. Go ahead.
That's right.
Yeah,
I'll get the link that real quick.
Yeah, go get the link, stick it in the chat, and I will stick it in the other chat, put it on the site. Jackman Radio also has a Substack, and so does Reed Coverdale. So now all 4 horsemen are on Substack. And well, both Jackman. I think Mike was writing articles. Might have been Eric. Maybe they both do it. They're kind of sharing one, but they have a Substack, and I will add you know what? I'm going to add buttons to those. That's what I need to do. So later today on A&C Report, I will have buttons for the horseman. Scott's a horseman too. So Scott and Reed and both the Jackman twins. Counterclock.com. Let me see what's here. I got a link to something.
I can't even open a new tab because of
Here, I'll go to your Substack. It's just your whole name, including your middle name, right? Let's see. Fucking
Yeah.
DuckDuckGo is awful. It's like, oh, it's an alternative search engine. I'm like, yeah, then what doesn't work?
Yeah, I think number one thing searched on Bing is Google.
For sure. Unfortunately. But Google got its start by being one for porn. Well, I looked you up and I went to my own Substack. Oh, here's one. History dude. Indie Media East Coast Canada is linking to you in their blog. Do you know this person?
No, I don't know.
Well, they are linking to you, whoever they are.
I don't.
Good for them. They also have
Cool.
Red Ice and some other things. This must be one of mine because they've got that in there. So there we go. Yeah, Ryan's link was shared in the description here. Lost Colony books, and then they have your Substack. Cool. Thank you, that person.
I need to put more on it.
I'm now subscribed to you.
One podcast on pirates and 2 little articles about U-boats attacking people in North Carolina. That's all it's on there at the moment. And the books. But I just got it like yesterday. So
right.
It'll grow.
I think so. Well, here's a link where you can subscribe, allegedly. And I'll stick that in the entropy right now. Too many tabs open.
All right, man. I'll catch you later. I do some work.
That's Scott Dawson. I'll have his stuff up on my website later. I do not like doing more than one thing at once. I have like the opposite of ADHD. I like to concentrate 100% on something and I ignore everything else around me. It's the only way you can get anything done when you have kids. I feel like. Here, they forgot part of the link here. That's what happened. Let's go this way. The fucking browser sucks. Brave and all that stuff, they don't work half the time. See, it wouldn't work in that browser. It works in this one. Here we go. Use Firefox or Chrome or something like that. There's where you can sign up. World War II submarine attack at Hatteras, death, birth, and irony. Let's see. His books, True History of Pirates, some coming soon stuff. There we go. Bam. I'm gonna subscribe. Scott. Let's see. I am subscribed already. Okay, good. I'll give it a like. There we go. Well, I wish the mic had been better, and I wish the audio would play on my film that I took 2 days to make, but it is what it is. So we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.